Hi, Kim. So I kind of wanted to send in a question just about moving more into a secure attachment style. What I was wondering from you is if you had any tips on communicating with avoidance.
Hi, Kim. My boyfriend and I have been together for about 2.5 years now, and anytime I bring up a topic regarding our future, marriage, just always feels like, that I'm pressuring him in a way because of his reaction. He shuts down, and I just don't know what the right way to bring it up to him is.
Hi Kim, I wanted to talk about self-doubt and confidence. It's something I've been struggling with my entire life. It plays out in every aspect of my life.
Kim, I wanted to know, your thoughts about navigating a relationship when both people are suffering from depression.
Hello and welcome to Engineering Love, a podcast about relationships, whether it's friends, family, or romantic partners. I'm your host, Kim Pollander, and today we'll be talking about attachment styles, how to overcome self-doubt and build confidence, and how to navigate a relationship when one or both of you struggle with depression. But first, let's talk about faith. Now, I don't mean faith in a religious sense, but rather faith in yourself. What does it mean to have faith in yourself? Well, faith is not having zero doubts where you just walk towards your goal without any reservations, but rather, as one of my teachers told me, faith is having enough interest in a hypothesis to get in the lab and try it. The hypothesis might be that you can improve your anxiety even though you struggled with it since you were a child. That you can release resentment and pain from the ex who you just wish would suffer and be miserable. Or your hypothesis might be that you can be in a loving relationship, manage your anger, improve your depression, or even deepen a connection with a sibling you've fought with your whole life. Whatever the hypothesis is that you're considering, you need to A, have interest in it and see the value of pursuing it, and B, put in the effort to take steps toward achieving that goal. The biggest thing that keeps people from having faith is fear. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of retaliation. You can't have faith in something and be really fearful of it. You can certainly have doubts, just not fear. If you're trying to better yourself or your relationship, you have to actually get in there and do the work. You have to seek it, put in the effort. It will be uncomfortable, sometimes painful, disheartening, disappointing. It will put you out of your comfort zone for sure. But so what? Who said life was supposed to be easy? You need to put the work in sincerely because if you've already determined that the hypothesis won't work, that it can't possibly become true, then you can't successfully achieve your goal. You will have zero motivation to put in the work, zero energy to keep working on it, and you'll catastrophize before you even get out of the gate. You have to believe that change is possible, and it helps to see this modeled. This is where finding relatable people will be very helpful, whether it's a social media influencer, a powerful author, or a mentor or friend, a relative or grandparent who has gone through your exact same issue. Once you can see that it's possible, then your participation in it will be that much easier. Why do I keep preaching about cognitive behavioral theory? Aside from the fact that there is empirical data supporting thousands of studies that prove its efficacy, why is it so popular and widely used? It's because it is the magical formula to ease your suffering. Your thoughts determine everything. Your thoughts determine your feelings and your actions. If you don't like your feelings or your behaviors, look at your thoughts and inner dialogue. Start keeping a thought log, a journal, or document on your laptop or phone that just dictates what your inner dialogue says on repeat. If you do this for a few weeks, you'll start to notice patterns and core negative beliefs. This is where the work is. And this is where you can start to permanently shift your inner experience by reframing those negative beliefs, getting different perspectives. So, decide what you want to change in your life and go big on your goals. What's the one thing that has kept you from consistent happiness your whole life? If you could wave a magic wand, what is one thing you would change? New Year's resolutions are coming up, so let's get intentional about how we want to take accountability and change our experience of suffering. Then determine next steps towards your goal. Find a support system and put some effort into it. And most of all, have a little faith. Believe that it's possible. And now let's get to today's questions.
Hi, Kim. I've been following your content and listening to your podcast for a while. First off, just wanted to say thank you so much for just putting out the kind of content you do. You're really changing people's lives, and I'm just really grateful to have been able to learn from you so far. I kind of wanted to send in a question just about moving more into a secure attachment style. I recently went through a breakup with someone who leaned more avoidant, which caused me to lean a little bit more anxious. And what I was wondering from you is if you had any tips on communicating with avoidance, maybe even knowing when it's time to walk away.
Hi, Kim. Boyfriend and I have been together for about 2.5 years now, and anytime I bring up a topic regarding our future, marriage, kids, moving in together, it just always feels like, that I'm pressuring him in a way because of his reaction. He shuts down, and I just don't know what the right way to bring it up to him is, because it always ends up in an argument, and it's just been months now of this.
Thank you to both of you who sent in these questions, and I chose 2 of them for this topic because they both relate to how to communicate with someone who shuts down. What we're looking for here are tools for how to deal with people who have avoidant traits. Now, they might be categorized as an actual avoidant attachment type, but as the caller alluded to, fearful-avoidant or disorganized attachment can have traits of both anxious and avoidant. So just because someone has avoidant traits doesn't mean they're just purely the avoidant attachment style. They might be fearful-avoidant. I always like speaking on this topic because I am a reformed avoidant attachment type. I understand the pain of talking to people like me. I understand the pain of people like me navigating anxious attachment partners, the whole deal. When you're talking about moving into a more secure attachment style, it's not just the anxious partner who should be labeled as wrong. Anxious attachment types tend to be criticized more because they're the ones who are putting everything out there. They're wearing their emotions on their sleeve. Meanwhile, avoidant types get to sit back, be quiet, get labeled as mysterious and sexy, and given all these attributes merely because they're quiet. But people who are anxiously attached and people who are avoidantly attached and disorganized or fearful avoidantly attached, we're all seeking the same thing, and that is emotional connection. If you don't believe that you are seeking emotional connection with a partner, then my question to you is, for all the avoidant attached people out there, my question to you is, why are you with someone who's such a feeler? Why are you with someone who is so emotional and in touch with their feelings? There is a point that all people were in touch with their feelings as children. And when emotions and feelings are not tended to and validated, then children tend to take certain paths in the road. They'll either become anxiously attached, where they seek more reassurance, more validation, more consoling that they are okay and that it's okay to love them and that they're still lovable being emotionally and anxiously attached. Other children may take that experience of not having their emotions validated and go the opposite direction, where they start to shut down. They suppress their feelings, they stop tuning into their feelings, and then you turn into an adult who supposedly isn't in touch with their feelings, doesn't need feelings, could care less about feelings, hates talking about feelings. But my point is that we all started at the same place. And if you're in a relationship with someone and you want to deepen that relationship, you need to get in touch with your own feelings first. That is the quickest way to improve your relationship. For all the avoidant people in the world, all the couples who have the avoidant and anxious attachment dynamic, we can talk for hours about what to do, what to say in order to validate the emotions and feelings of the anxiously attached. But it will all be shallow. It will all be performative. until you get in touch with your own feelings. And this is the part that people bail. Avoidantly attached people don't like to talk about their feelings. They don't want to sit with them. And they certainly don't want to go back to childhood to dredge up where that fork in the road happened, where their emotions were not validated and they learned to shut down. But the thing is, you may think that you're going through life just fine and you are probably very successful in life because you tuned out your feelings. You are probably surrounded by people who are emotional and are always showing their feelings to you, and then you get that security of other people always wearing their emotions on their sleeves. There's no guessing game there. But there's something in you that is seeking out these people, these anxiously attached people. If not, go out and find another avoidant partner. Find someone who doesn't want to talk about their feelings. Many of them are out there. But there's a reason avoidant always finds anxiously attached, and vice versa. This whole dynamic of why anxious and avoidant find each other, it starts in childhood. When we're children, we see what is modeled in front of us, and it starts to form our expectations about relationships. We develop an attachment style. We learn what is safe and what is not safe. We learn what is normal and not normal, accepted and rejected. Anxiously attached are triggered by the aloofness, the independence of the avoidant, which just motivates you to seek more closeness from them. Avoidants fear losing their independence, and an anxious partner seeking reassurance constantly causes them to withdraw further and shut down. This all confirms for both of you your deepest beliefs about relationships, that you will either be smothered or rejected. People think that the independence of an avoidant means that they're more secure in relationships, which is totally not true. So for the anxiously attached, if you want to know where it all started, go back to childhood, look at one of your caregivers, and see where this same dynamic, this push-pull dynamic played out. Someone who was avoidant with you way back then. It seeded this idea that this is what love is, this is what relationships are like. It stops you from seeking more secure attached people, because we perpetuate these dynamics from our childhood in order to get a different outcome as adults. For avoidance, same thing. Go back to childhood. Who was the person who was constantly seeking emotional reassurance from you, seeking you to console them? Someone who put your needs aside in order for you to take care of their needs. That resentment started early. Who couldn't you console? Who couldn't you save when you were younger? Now that we know where it all starts from, what do we do now? Because the avoidance and the anxious are still constantly matching up. It's very hard to rewire what you are attracted to. The ideal situation is that you find someone who is, if you're anxious, you're going to find an avoidant. If you're an avoidant, you're going to find an anxious. You find someone who makes you feel alive like that, who you are drawn to, and you find a person who is willing to put in the work to where you can actually get that different outcome that you've been seeking your whole life. I get these questions all the time about my partner won't talk to me, my partner shuts down, where I hear all of the self-blame and the over-responsibility from people on why their partner won't talk to them. When really the truth is, it's on your partner's shoulders to engage with you. Sure, you can tiptoe around, walk on eggshells, stand on your head, twirl around 3 times, make sure the planets are aligned properly in order for the avoidant to actually talk to you. But why do you have to do all that? It is both people's responsibility to engage in the relationship. So if you're dealing with someone who always shuts down, sure, there are things you can do to find out what it looks like to them to have an inviting, safe conversation. Perhaps you're the one who always comes aggressive out of the gate. Research shows that a soft startup, when you're bringing up something heavy, is best. It's the only chance you have of having a productive conversation. A softer, controlled startup. Another tip is to say, hey, I have something, I want to talk to you about. Is now a good time? Asking for permission, because a lot of times partners will bombard their other partner when they come home with something heavy the minute they walk in the door, and it creates so much resentment. Asking if now is a good time. Then when you actually sit down and talk, ask the avoidant what they need. When people are expressing their needs, it is on the shoulders of you, of each person, to communicate to your partner what you need in order to engage. But ultimately, it takes the initiative of the avoidant person to recognize what their patterns are in a relationship that are unhealthy and not contributing to communication and open communication, to acknowledge that, to seek the source of why that happens, and to do the work of shifting. As the anxiously attached or as the fearful avoidant or disorganized attached person, you can ask your partner, hey, look, I really want to talk about us moving in together, whatever the topic is. I really want to talk about us having a child, us getting married. I really want to talk about how we argue. I really want to talk about the house chores. What is a way that we can have an open conversation about this? Put it on the avoidant's shoulders. What do they need in order to stay engaged? Have the avoidant put some skin in the game. Come up with something, a method where they promise to stay engaged and then stick to it. What is generally happening under the hood is that the avoidant person feels like they're failing the anxiously attached in some way. And that is such a frustrating feeling because the avoidant, in their mind, they're doing so much for their anxious partner. They're working hard. They're providing, they're doing all these things that are loving and show their partner that they are committed and they do love them. But all these things and loving actions that they're doing, the evidence, so to speak, is getting missed by their anxiously attached partner. And the avoidant just feels frustrated, and instead of communicating and using their words, they just shut down. So in answer to the first question of how to move from a fearful avoidant to a more secure attachment, it's understanding your value system. What's a priority to you? How important is it to you to have a partner who will engage with you, who will console you emotionally, who will help soothe you, who will attend to your emotional needs, emotional validation? How important is that actually? Because you say it's important, but your behaviors say otherwise. You're in a relationship with someone who absolutely does not meet your emotional needs. Is it that important to you? Moving to a secure attachment involves understanding your sense of self, developing your sense of self, your self-efficacy, where you can make those tough decisions and stand by them, stand up for yourself, defend yourself, express your needs. And when you have those values, and those values start to get violated, they start to get compromised. What do you do when your values are compromised? Do you bend the values? Do you modify the values to make it fit into whatever relationship you're in? Or do you say, hey, I'm not getting my needs met. This relationship may not be working for me. Moving to a secure attachment involves understanding your trauma, understanding the pain of your past, understanding how you bring in triggers into the relationship that have nothing to do with your partner. You may think your misery started with your avoidantly attached partner, but it didn't. These patterns were set. So what can you own when you do get triggered? How can you learn to take some of that burden of self-soothing and reassuring you? How can you take some of that onto your own shoulders? Now, people always say, like, I want to be self-sufficient. I need to learn how to do self-love. I need to be this completely contained person who doesn't need anything from anybody. Sorry, that's not the goal, because we're not wired like that. We are human beings. We're social mammals. We need connection and we need community. We're harmed in relationship and we need to heal in relationships. So sure, learn how to build self-esteem, learn how to self-soothe, learn how to reassure yourself that you're worthy of love. All good stuff. But ultimately, you also need other people to validate your feelings and support you and demonstrate to you that you are lovable. This can't be done by yourself. So the question becomes, who are you surrounding yourself with? Who are you seeking love and validation from? It's possible that they may not be capable of holding space for you, of validating your feelings, and of being the life partner that you need. I don't know. That's up to you. How do you validate yourself when they're being avoidant? Well, bounce ideas off of trusted people. Ask them, hey, I was asking this about my partner and they really shut down, or they blew up at me, or they got really upset. Was I reasonable in asking this? Are your needs reasonable? Are your requests and your desires reasonable? Are your desires for reassurance reasonable? And if they are, own them. Do not back down from them. When is it time to walk away? First, have you communicated your concerns and your needs to them? Secondly, are they capable of attending to these needs? If not, then time to do personal work for everybody, therapy for everyone. And 3, have they demonstrated a sincerity, an effort, progress? If you look at the time where you first brought up your concern to now, and look at the progress that was made during that time, you now have a sampling, like a snapshot of what your long-term relationship could be like with this person. What does that sampling look like? Is there progress? Okay. Then maybe there will be more progress down the road. But if you have communicated everything, if you are owning your own stuff and your own triggers that you're putting onto them or projecting onto them, if you've communicated your needs, if they are still not willing to budge, then they are communicating very loudly to you that they are okay with the relationship. They're communicating that they are okay with the way they are, They're okay with how the relationship is going, and that's pretty loud, clear communication. At that point, you have a choice to make. Do you want to spend the rest of your life with this person? Can you live with it? The decision to break up is always complicated. It's not just a simple breakup. A lot of times things are messy, but I do know that after years and years of expressing needs, years of not getting your feelings validated, of being ignored, of being neglected emotionally, of being disrespected, that adds up. And at some point, I don't know when that day will be, but there will be a day where the resentment becomes too much. And then you will break up with them, and you'll resent them for giving them the best years of your life. These are all heavy things to think about, but very valuable things to think about. Thank you very much for your questions.
Hi, Kim. I wanted to talk about self-doubt and confidence. It's something I've been struggling with my entire life. I literally accepted awful friends to treat me very badly. I accepted my ex to treat me very badly, and even family members. I have to be the best, otherwise I'm just worthless. I would love to know how to overcome self-doubt and stop being so focused on myself that I hate myself. Take things more lightly. Thank you for your help.
I really appreciate the honesty of this question because you pinpointed and described so accurately the inner experience of people who have just been beaten down, where you didn't have a lot of cheerleaders in your life, you didn't have a lot of emotional support in your life, and you were left to your own devices of putting together some sense of self, how to succeed in this world, and you developed this system where the more doubt you have of yourself, the more criticism you have of yourself, the more quote-unquote successful you will be in life. Somehow this mantra got seeded because you didn't have anyone else guiding you in any other way. If you couldn't tell by now, I am a fan of going back to childhood. So let's go back to childhood, because the more you can understand where these patterns came from, the more you can relegate these feelings and this mindset off to something from the past. That's the goal of working with trauma, is to be able to start to separate out the past from the present. Otherwise, the present just becomes one big bowl of gunk that you're constantly navigating. So let's go back to childhood. Who treated you poorly? Where it wasn't a choice, where you could choose to accept it, as you said multiple times, but you didn't have a choice, and it wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault that you were mistreated. It wasn't your fault that you were disrespected. It wasn't your fault that you weren't validated, that you were abused, that you were not cared for emotionally. It wasn't your fault. You didn't choose to be accepted that way as a child. It just happened upon you. And all the while you were told that you have to be better. Now, caregivers don't necessarily say this in an overt, obvious way. This whole message of you need to be better, you need to be more perfect, can come through in many ways, such as being corrected a lot, being criticized a lot, where maybe you do something and you're proud of it and your parent says, oh yeah, that's okay, but it might have been better if you did it this way. Just all these messages saying that you weren't good enough. Perhaps it was when you had big emotions, you were criticized for that. So your emotions weren't validated, your feelings weren't validated. So when you felt a certain way, your caregivers created doubt for how you feel. What is self-doubt? It's questioning yourself of what is real. Did you really do that paper properly? Did you really do that school project properly? Should you really be that angry? Should you really be that sad? Should you really be this upset? Constantly just creating doubt in yourself about who you are and what you feel. And then over time, growing up, of course you would be focused on yourself, because that is the key to love. If you don't focus on yourself, how would you have improved yourself? If you can't improve yourself, then you can't maintain love from the family around you, because clearly they have very set ideas of what it means to be good and successful and achieving and lovable. So how can you take things lightly when the weight of the world is constantly on your shoulders? Your very value as a child, as a family member, as a human being is riding on your ability to be perfect. So that self-doubt machine, it's become very advantageous to you. Whenever we change a behavior, we have to understand what is the benefit of this old behavior? What's the benefit of this old mindset? And this mindset of yours to have self-doubt, to have to be the best. There's been a lot of benefit in the past of having this. So what are the goals of a mindset like that? Well, you want to be accepted, you want to be loved, and you want to be told you're a good person. We don't want to change those goals. Keep those goals, they are perfect. But is there another way to achieve those goals of lovability and getting good feedback from others without this self-deprecation, without this constant self-doubt and self-criticism and self-blame? That is where the practice will come, where you practice this new mindset. What you can do as a start, it's a variation on solution-focused therapy, is look back on your life at the good things that have happened. Let's take having a job, being successful at your job. Why do you think you were successful at that job? Why do you think you even got that one position or got that promotion? Now, if we go back to the old mindset, well, I got that promotion because I had tons of self-doubt and I fueled myself into a ball of anxiety the night before the interview, and that's the only reason I did well. Okay, I mean, that's one perspective. Could you also say that the reason you got that job was because you were educated, you trained yourself well, you studied for the interview and you prepared yourself? Could you have gotten that job without all the self-deprecation? That's the question on the table. A lot of times when we have good things happen to us in life, we attribute those good things to our negative behaviors. Well, I found a partner because I worried about it incessantly and I worked on myself incessantly, and all this self-criticism to become a better person made me a better partner, and I wouldn't have even been in a relationship without all the self-doubt. Okay, again, that's one perspective. But maybe you're in a loving relationship because you're already a loving person. The question is, if you let go of the anxiety machine, the self-doubt machine, will you still be successful in life? Will you still be able to achieve your goals? That is something that you need evidence for. This idea of accepting poor treatment, it gives you ownership of the situation, which is not bad. Yeah, you did accept it. It was okay with you. But it sounds like it's not okay anymore. But when you phrase it such as, I accepted poor treatment, I hear a lot of self-blame versus putting the accountability on the other person. Where I accepted poor treatment from my ex turns into, my ex was a real jerk. My ex was trash. My ex was a horrible human being. My ex harmed me and treated me poorly, and it really hurt my feelings. It was gutting. It damaged my self-esteem. I'm embarrassed that I let it happen, but I'm most embarrassed and ashamed that my ex didn't love me more. What is it about me that wasn't lovable enough? That's the way to get deeper into that feeling of, I accepted poor treatment from people. Acknowledge the pain and the vulnerability. Understand why you actually did it, because you were just wanting to be loved, a very reasonable desire. So start getting angry. Start giving accountability back to all the trashy people in the world who have walked all over you. It's not okay anymore. There's something that happens when you do personal work where friendships, maybe the relationship you're in, they don't resonate as much and you start to drift. This is a very pivotal time in your life because what choice will you make? Will you go back and cling to what's familiar so that you won't be alone? Or will you wait it out, white knuckle it, wait, and open that space and keep that space open for somebody new to come in, whether it's a friend or a partner? We have to be able to white knuckle it through that critical point in time when we're doing personal work and shifting. It's the reason why so many people get so close. They get so close to a miracle happening in their life. They get so close to really shifting a lifelong pattern, and then they back off. They quit right before the miracle happens. So if you're no longer going to accept poor treatment from others, understand that there might be a brief window of time where you're spending some time alone, and that's okay. We have to open up space in our life and keep that space open so that new friends who resonate with our new mindset can come in. New partners can come in. Because if we keep filling that space with people who mistreat us just because we don't want to be alone, you'll forever be in this pattern. And as for the last part of your question of how to take things more lightly, well, the premise is that you are not allowed to make mistakes. You need to be perfect. That is the premise of what you're saying. There are no little mistakes. They're all horrible, atrocious, life-condemning mistakes. That's what you're telling me. Whereas, is there a different way to look at this? Getting back to CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, how we look at things and our perspectives on things determine our feelings. If your daughter came to you and said, I am so obsessed with self-doubt and improving myself and being perfect and being good, being the best, that I think about myself so much on how to improve myself that I hate myself, what would you say to her? Is it okay for her to make mistakes? Is it okay for her to not be the best? Why is that okay for her not to be the best? Are you saying that only perfect people are lovable? Well, no, that sounds ridiculous. As we start to voice these things out loud, we can hear our childhood logic come out, and it's ridiculous. Like, no, not only perfect people are lovable. Okay, then prove it. Why do you have to be so perfect? How to take things more lightly? Start making mistakes purposely. Start coloring outside the lines and let it be. Laugh at yourself. A lot of the fuel in anxiety comes from this belief that we are incapable of pivoting when we come across a challenge. So how to take things lightly? I made a mistake. I made a regrettable decision. I'm going to pivot. It's going to be okay. That is your new mantra in life. I'm not perfect, and it's going to be okay. I'm not perfect, and I am lovable. Do I require other people to be perfect in order for me to love them? No. So why am I not allowed that same grace? You are okay just the way you are. Thank you very much for your question.
Hi, Kim. I wanted to know, your thoughts about navigating a relationship when both people are suffering from depression. So where we are now is that both of us are actually in therapy because I just started seeing the signs of my depression coming back, and I'm just having a lot of doubts about our relationship in general. If we do stay together, tips about navigating, this kind of hardship together, because of course, I love him and, I'm pretty sure he loves me. So, any tips.
Thanks very much for this question and sharing your struggles with depression for both you and your partner, which can certainly be a bigger challenge. I get questions from partners a lot where one partner is navigating depression or a disorder of some sort, and it creates a strain on the other partner. But for both partners to be challenged with depression, obviously that's going to create some unintentional conflict as you're both navigating how to feel better in this world. I'm very encouraged by the fact that you both have signed on to therapy. If you're thinking you have depression, if you're worried about it, the best thing to do is to get evaluated by a psychiatrist, by a licensed therapist. Get checked by your MD, your doctor, to eliminate any other factors that could be affecting your health. Make sure there's not medication that you've recently started that has also triggered any sort of depressive symptoms. So many factors can be at play, and make sure that you cover all your bases and consult the professionals on it. I'm going to assume that you've done all this and you are in therapy, and whether medication is part of your regimen, again, whatever your professionals have recommended is going to be best for you. A lot of research states that for depression, a combination of therapy and medication is best, but medication isn't for everyone, so that's totally up to you. As far as tips for navigating depression between the two of you, your individual therapy is going to be key to creating shifts. I don't know what kind of therapy you're doing. Hopefully it's something in the CBT realm, maybe even DBT, but something that will help you get control of your thoughts, because your thoughts determine your feelings. Your thoughts determine your behaviors. So whatever perspectives and beliefs you have, if you can reframe those beliefs, get different perspectives on those beliefs, it will automatically create different feelings for you. So I encourage you to put all of your effort into those therapy sessions. And in the meantime, you can educate yourself about depression, its symptoms. And it sounds like you already have, where you're learning to recognize symptoms. You said you caught your own symptoms early on and you sought help. This is excellent. Excellent work. If both people have depression, I can see how you might be triggering to each other, where whatever it is that's driving the depression, if that experience gets triggered by your partner, then it might be tough not to let things spiral out of control. So being present, listening, learning empathy, and I understand it's hard to be empathetic and listen to someone when you don't have the energy yourself. And if you two can be open about what's coming up in therapy and what the root of the depression comes from. Also, let's talk about the genetic component that could possibly be at play. Does depression run in your family? Heritability, genetic contributions to depression, it can account for 30, 40, maybe even 50% at times. And that is completely out of your control. So there could be genetics at play, there could be a home environment that contributed to it. It could be some traumatic event or events that contribute to it. Again, this will come out in your therapy. But if there's a genetic component and this runs in your family, then that offers another perspective of understanding yourself, moving into self-acceptance, understanding you're not broken, it's not your fault. Now, the toughest thing with depression, depending on how bad it gets for the both of you, the toughest thing can be getting through your day-to-day, being able to take care of yourself. Basic hygiene, functioning at a basic level. And if you two can get very clear on house chores, I can't tell you how house chores just takes down a relationship. So if you two can get on the same page about how to take care of just the basics with house chores, I don't know if you can afford it, but even getting outside help to help you with some of these things while you're navigating these depressive periods, that could be beneficial. There are going to be some days where you're feeling a little better and they're feeling a little off and vice versa. So on the days that one of you has a little more energy, that person can take up the charge a little bit more when it comes to helping around the house, cooking meals. You can really have a buddy system here, an accountability person, to encourage you both to have healthy habits where you can either enable yourselves to stay in bed all day or have one of you try to take up the charge and encourage and motivate the other person to get up out of bed, take a shower, eat a meal. But the biggest shifts that are going to happen are going to be what comes out in therapy. Understanding what your perspectives of yourself are, your views of love. How did your self-esteem get seated? Your ability to believe in yourself. Ability to overcome challenges and reversals and setbacks. Maybe you're navigating resentment, trying to move more into forgiveness. And forgiveness isn't condoning or approving what people did to you who harmed you. It's more moving into acceptance over time so that you can move on. It has nothing to do with making them feel better. It's purely for you. Maybe there's self-forgiveness involved that you can work through, that you're not letting yourself off the hook for. Whatever the case may be, stay focused on your thoughts and your beliefs and what fuels your feelings, whatever feeling you're having of being depressed, being sad, maybe angry, despondent. What are the thoughts that those feelings are based off of? Tie them back to your thoughts and have your therapist help you find different perspectives and reframes to become more resilient, more self-accepting, and to believe that you're capable of navigating this life. I wish you and your partner the best, and I would love to hear updates on how you both are doing. You can DM me, you can email me, info@polandercg.com, but I really would love to hear how you're doing, and I'll be thinking about you. Thank you very much for sharing this question. Thank you for listening to another episode of Engineering Love. Join me this Saturday for my workshop on how to manage guilt and shame. Sign-up links are in my bio, and please like, share, subscribe on YouTube and my Instagram pages. I really appreciate your support and encouragement. And before we wrap up, I'd like to leave you with a quote from Plato, the philosopher, who said, "We can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark. The real tragedy of life is when one is afraid of the light." I like this quote because it highlights how many of us avoid shedding light on the cold, hard truth. However, the light can also reveal positive things in our lives. What will the light reveal about the truth of you? Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you next week.